Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to you all. We are a bit late. It's not in our nature to come on late. A few network challenges that we had to deal with. I don't know, MTN, the network was so bad. We tried changing network and still we weren't getting the right network. But I think it's better now. So we are live. And if you are joining, if you are here, let me see your comments in the comment section. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. If the network is okay, please let me know so that I will know that I can be heard and I can be seen. So yes, today, I don't know. Please, can I be heard? Can I be seen? Okay, I believe I can be heard and I believe I can be seen. So I welcome all of you if you are joining. Today we are going to talk about something that is very, very, very important. Your silence and your ignorance can actually kill your child. It can actually be very dangerous for your child. Yes, most people are silent because they don't know what to say, and even they don't even know why it's important to actually have these conversations. And we're going to have this class with one of my very dear sisters. She's called Chinyere Obina. She's going to be here with me. So kindly give me some few minutes and let me see if I think she's also having some network challenges. Please give me a moment and let me check up on her. I'll be right back. Yes, hello. So sorry. I think she's also having some network challenges, but I have left a message for her and I'm hoping she will join us soon. Yes, so today we are talking about how keeping silence, okay? Keeping quiet can actually cost you a lot as a parent. Some people think that when we say, have these conversations with your children, we just love to talk. No, in the Bible, Hosea chapter 4, verse 6 says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. When you lack the knowledge, you will not be able to really know what to say, and you perish for not having knowledge. You put your child in danger for not having knowledge, for not knowing the right things to say. You put your child in danger. Your silence doesn't really protect the child. No, keeping quiet, okay, not having sex conversations with your child will not protect the child. It is rather putting the child in danger. And you are protecting your fears by not talking. You are protecting your fears by not opening up your mouth to talk about the very important conversations that you must have. I always say that we all have to have sex conversations with our children. It is one of the very important conversations that we must have with our children. And I understand most of the times parents are afraid. The parents are actually afraid to open their mouth to talk about it because of fear. And I have been there. I have been there, but there is also a way, and that is why we are coming up with this course to help you, okay, to help you know what to say, at every point in time. Please give me a moment. Okay, to know what to say at every point in time. So it's very, very important that we have this conversation. So my friend is here, Chinyere Obina is here, and I'm going to add her to the stage immediately. Hello, sis. Hello, sis. Can you hear me? Hello.
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to you. It's been a while.
Can you
I
hear
think you
me?
are frozen. Yes, I can hear you, but it seems you are frozen. Hello. Could it be network? Network. Wow. Okay, so it's better now. Now I can see you again. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so as I was saying, it won't benefit us. We won't get anything from it, from keeping quiet and not having this conversation. It's very important that we open up, we open up and then talk to our kids about why it's important to have these conversations, with them. And it is actually also very dangerous to be silent. We don't talk about it. Like sometimes in our homes, once you open your mouth to talk, what we say is that keep quiet. This one is not supposed to be said here. You have to keep quiet. You don't have to open your mouth. Like we shut the children up. Hello, sis, can you hear me? Hello. Wow. I think it's network. Okay. She's mute. Okay, she's off stage now. I think she will come back so that we can continue with our session today. We are very, very sorry for the network challenges. That is what we just have to manage. We just have to manage. So we are very sorry for the network challenges. I'm trying to still get her on so that we can have this. Please give me a moment, okay? The network is so bad. I think she has challenges joining. Okay, she's back. Let me try adding her to the stage.
I hope you
Yes,
can
yes,
hear me
sis.
now.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
I'm so sorry about that. I've been network
It's
issues, so I
fine.
have to go outside to be
Yeah,
able to join.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, so are we ready to go?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. Then I'm leaving the stage for you.
Okay. Oh, okay. So we are talking about your silence and ignorance is keeping your child in danger. That's the topic I've been given to do today. And I'm very grateful before I continue to the host for always trusting in my work and in the thing I do, in what I do in this space. Okay, so let's move ahead. Your silence and ignorance is keeping your child in danger, and that's the truth. Well, that may sound strong, but it's the truth. Silence and ignorance are two silent enemies that leave our children vulnerable. Sometimes we think that because we are silent, that our children are safe. In fact, some people feel that because they are not talking about um, sex, that their children are safe. And it's such a very big lie because it's not, I mean, there's nothing like ignorance. Ignorance is truly not bliss because what you're ignorant of is very highly, very, very dangerous to you. Do you know or did you know that over 90% of child abuse happens by someone the child knows and trusts? And many children never speak up because no one ever told them they could. Recently, I read something that said that over 60% of children don't speak up about abuse, and that's the truth. That's the truth. In fact, that's even underreported. Even those that are listening to me today, you would agree with me that if you ever had that challenge, you might not have even spoken to your parents about it, and it's getting worse. And that's because of silence, and that's because of ignorance. Because why will a child even talk to you about such a thing if such conversations don't happen at home? How will the child even recognize that such a thing was not is not acceptable or is wrong, and to talk about it if there is no such conversation happening in the first place? Some children don't even know what abuse is and that they have been abused, right? Some of them are even in the place where they are practically enjoying it and they don't know that it's wrong. I remember one very sad story I read about a woman. She's also into, because of what she went through, she's into now doing this sex education as a Christian girl, as a church girl who went for camp just like other teenagers. And she was taken advantage of by one of the camp organizers. And till she got married, she didn't know that she was actually abused until she got married. So silence, no, silence is not safety. Silence is not safety, not at all. So if you're silent, your children will be silent. If you're silent, your children are in danger. So what does silent look like? Let's start with that. For us as parents, what does silent look like? With this, you'll be able to know if you are silent at home. Okay. A silence isn't just not talking. Okay, silence is not just about not talking. Silence is avoiding hard topics. Okay, so there is the silence that, okay, you're not even talking about sex, you're not talking about body safety in your home, you're not talking about pornography, you're not talking about all those hard topics at home. Okay, that's a level of silence. Then there's this one that is not just that you're not talking, but you avoid the hard topics. So sometimes it shows up when you say you're too young to your child. Your child asks you a question, maybe asks you, mom or dad, what's sex? And you say, you're too young to ask such a question. Or it's not yet time for me to tell you. I always tell parents, and I'm saying it today again, that there is no topic that is off age. Let me put it that way. There is no topic that is off age. Okay. So, in other words, there is no question that you're asked that is off the age of your child. Just that your responsibility as a parent is to bring it to the level of that child, for the child to be able to understand it. It's your responsibility to say it in such a way that you're not giving the child under information or over information. But as long as that question has been asked by that child is qualified to hear something about it, no matter the age. So there's nothing like you're too young. When you tell your child you're too young, that means you are actually imbibing the silence culture. When you tell your child it's not time yet, that is the silence culture and it's not good for you. For example, you don't teach the correct name of the body parts. That's silence culture. You still call the body parts names by their baptismal name or by their guy names. Okay? When you do that, you are actually practicing the culture of silence in your home. When you avoid discussions about touch and privacy, you are practicing the culture of silence at home. And when you brush off when your child says, I don't like it when Uncle so so and so hugs me, you are also practicing the culture of silence. You know, a lot of parents don't even recognize when their children are reporting abuse or attempted abuse. They just brush it off, especially when it's somebody that they know, when it's somebody that is family, when it's somebody that is close to them. They just can't believe that such a person who they know, maybe a family member, can actually do that to a child. In fact, a lot of stories or experiences abound where the parents would actually even blame the child and not do anything about it. Some children are flogged, punished because they reported that an uncle or a parent's friend tried to abuse them. And then that is the culture of silence, not just for you, but for your child. When a child comes to report such a thing, even if it's just an attempt, and you don't do anything about it, then you are actually pushing the child to the place of silence. You're shutting the child down. All right. So I always say, and I'll still say it, I don't think a child lies about abuse. Okay, well, let me not be absolute. Let me say 99%. So the other 1% is well the other side. But 99% of the time, children don't lie about abuse. Okay, when I said 99%, I just remembered that somebody, a colleague of mine before, said, told of how a child, how they actually set him up in the school he was teaching. You know, God just helped him and he spent a lot of money to bail himself out. So, well, that 1% still exists. But 99%, especially when the children are very young, they cannot lie about sexual abuse. So when a child reports anything like that, what you do is to move into action immediately. Okay, so when we don't speak, children interpret that as this topic is wrong or is shameful, and predators, thrive in silence. So, that's what your silence is actually saying to your children when you don't talk about these things. That's number one is wrong, number two is shameful. And of course, you're also giving the predators the chance to work. Now, Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, because I'm a Christian sex educator, I will always talk about the scriptures. Proverbs 22, verse 6 says, train up a child in the way he should go. So we are commanded to teach because training, you can't actually train without teaching. All the years that Jesus spent on earth training his disciples, what he was doing was 99% teaching, 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 right? So the Bible is a command. It's a command for us to train, to teach our children. There's another lovely scripture that backs this one up. In fact, that's even my anchor scripture found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. It says we should talk to our children, we should talk about our children, talk about these things with our children when we are lying on the bed, when we are walking on the road, when we are sitting at home. He said we should put it on the doorpost of our houses, and we should put it, they should wear it as what bracelets and put it on their foreheads. In other words, that's my scripture where I say you just have to be talking 247 to your children about these things. So it's a command. Now, what does ignorance look like? Ignorance is not stupidity, it's simply not knowing. And it can be deadly when it comes to our children's safety, right? That's what ignorance is. Now, ignorance, again, just like I talked about silence, is number one, you don't even know at all that such a thing exists and that you should talk to your children about sex and so on and so forth. You're just completely in the dark. But listen, ignorance is never an excuse. Ignorance is the platform on which predators actually thrive. Okay, so like I said before, silence is not protection. Silence is not safety. If you're silent, your children are not protected. There is no guarantee that if your children are not hearing sex education, that they are protected. In fact, they are in a very bad position if you're not talking. Okay, so the other part of ignorance is abandoning the knowledge. Now, when you assume, listen to ignorance, you assume that abuse only happens out there. Ah, I've been there. I've been there. Okay, so I understand. You assume that it doesn't happen in my home. It doesn't happen this way. You can even connect it to who you are. Okay, you can even connect it to who you are. Maybe a pastor, an influential person, a celebrity. You can just attach it to your personality. Because I'm this, abuse cannot happen in my home. Because I am a what do they call it, a housewife, right, a stay-at-home mom, so my children cannot be abused, and it puts you in a very bad place, and that bad place is a place of silence. Number two, not recognizing the signs of grooming is when a child is being wooed, is being that's what predators do. They woo the child, they groom the child. Those actions that they do, excuse. Okay, so they go ahead, come into the child's space. The child, it can even be a family member in your house or somebody that you know, but they are actually grooming the child, and you can't recognize that they are being groomed. In fact, predators, they even groom you as the parent at the same time, and you cannot recognize that. That is ignorance. And then believing that Christian children are automatically saved. That's exactly what I was talking about in the first one when I talked about abuse doesn't happen here. Oh, I'm a child of God, and my children are covered in the blood of Jesus. Such things don't happen to my children. I'm a pastor, I'm a pastor's wife, I'm a deacon, I'm an elder, and so on and so forth, right? And then uh, there's one when I was in the university, when we used to work for the Lord in our fellowship and all that. We go for evangelism, we do a lot of activities, so much activities that we don't have even the time to read our books. And then we go to pray to the Lord and we say, God, because I'm working in your vineyard, you also work in my vineyard. In other words, you're also going to read my books for me and pass my exams. You will not let me fail. I used to have a lot of we used to have a lot of testimony. We hear a lot of testimonies of how blah 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 and all that. So you can actually bring it out to parents. Say, God, I'm a pastor, I'm a pastor's wife, I'm a deacon, I'm an evangelist, I work in your vineyard. So walk in my vineyard, which is my family. You will not let my children be sexually abused. My dear, it doesn't work that way. God doesn't parent children. The Bible says, and all your children shall be taught of the Lord, not by the Lord. It's your responsibility to teach your children. Okay, while God will do what? Remind them when it's time. I hope I can be heard because it's raining right here. Now, let me warn you, you cannot protect what you don't understand. You don't understand this, so how can you protect it? So Hosea 4:6 says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, ignorance. In fact, it continued by saying that because you abandon knowledge, I will also abandon you and your descendants. So your ignorance is a disadvantage, not just to you, but to your children. Your children are at a disadvantaged position if you are silent. Excuse me once again.
Um, I'm really sorry about that. I think she said it's raining over there, so I think that is the reason why she, goes off and then come on. So she mentioned something that I want to actually talk about, that ignorance is the platform on which predators thrive. Most of us keeping quiet, this actually tells us that keeping quiet doesn't really bring anything good to us. It rather makes things worse. So face your fears now. If you're a parent, face your fears now and know that that quiet, okay, your silence, you not talking, you not gaining the right knowledge to actually help your child is putting your child in danger. Okay, says you're welcome.
Thank you so much. So it's a disadvantage. You become a disadvantage to your child if you dwell in the place of ignorance. They will become cheap prey to predators, to peer pressure, to social media pressure, to all kinds of things because nobody taught them, nobody warned them, nobody told them anything. Okay, so now let's talk about consequences before the rain gets much. Consequences of your silence and ignorance. I've mentioned that somehow, but number one is increased vulnerability. Okay, children who don't know the rules are easily manipulated. Vulnerability, ignorance is the highest level, is what places your child in a vulnerable position, not when you teach them. Okay, teaching them um doesn't spoil them, especially if you're trained on how to do it the right way. When you're trained, when you do it the right way, knowing what to say per time, even knowing how to answer their questions without over giving over information or giving less on the information, then you are keeping your child in a safe space. Just like I said, ignorance is not equal to innocence. That's what I say. I usually say ignorance is not innocence. Why? Because a lot of parents say if I start talking, then I'll steal my children's innocence. And I'm telling you that ignorance is not always innocent. In fact, the only way to preserve your child's sexual innocence is by bringing yourself and them out of the place of ignorance. Because, my dear parents, all the children that have been sexually abused and have lost their innocence lost it on the platform of ignorance. So when you don't talk, when you imbibe and continue the culture of silence, what you're doing is that you're increasing the vulnerability of your child. For example, I remember teaching one time that one of the advantages of children knowing their body part is that predators avoid them. And the reason is simple. If my child, if a child knows the the anatomical names of the private part, it also means that the child is not an ignorant child. It also means that the child knows when a touch is unsafe. It also means that the child knows that if they ever feel uncomfortable with a touch, that they will report. And I'm sure you know that predators thrive in silence. Okay, so yes, they know that a child cannot be silent by the things they are doing to them. They will stay away. So once you destroy the path of ignorance, once you take care of ignorance, you're taking care of the vulnerability of your children. The next thing, number two, which is the consequences of silence and ignorance, is delayed disclosure, right? Even sin thrives in silence. That's why, even in my teaching about pornography, we talk about this, reporting the very first accidental note. It will save the child years of eventual addiction because the child reported that first look, okay? But if it's covered, the first look most of the times is accidental. But if the child has not been taught, if it's an ignorant child, the child may feel that they will get into trouble and they will cover it. They will keep silent about it. They won't tell anybody about it. They won't tell that, look, I saw such and such a thing. And what happens is that probably the second time the child will go by themselves to look for the porn because they were silent about the first look, which was accidental. Can you see that silence is not golden when it comes to when it comes to body safety? Silence can cost a lot for you and for your child. So the child will keep suffering in silence because they don't know they're supposed to talk about it. Haven't you heard of haven't you heard about abuse situations? Of course, you know that one of the things that the predators do is to threaten their victim with the fact that if you don't keep silent, you will die, or your parents will die, or nobody will believe you, or I will kill you. They threaten them to be for them to maintain silence, because as long as there is silence, they are powerful. As long as there is silence, they will continue. So if there is a culture of silence in your environment, then the child also is going to suffer in the hands of the abusers in silence, even for many, many, many years, until something, happens suddenly. Silence is not and can never be golden when it comes to body safety. The third thing is emotional and spiritual damage. Because they don't talk, they are already in a place where they are spiritually and emotionally damaged. Somebody says sexual abuse pauses the destiny of people, or even stops a lot of people's destiny if nothing is done. Trauma may cause rebellion, depression, or confusion about identity. Okay, because once they continue being abused, they enter it gets into when it becomes when they become damaged physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Those are the three consequences of sexual whatever. It's not just physical. That's just it. That's what people don't know. It's not just physical. It goes beyond physical. It goes to the emotions, to the psychological part of the child, and of course to the spiritual, because sex is a spiritual activity. You understand? So it's a complete wholesome damage of the personality of a person when abuse is there. And that trauma can lead to many other things. Number four, generational repetition. What is generational curse? It's something that is not nipped at the bud. Okay? If we don't break the cycle, it continues. But you cannot break a cycle in silence and ignorance. You can't. You don't even know that such a thing is in existence. For example, you don't know a young lady who is not aware, she was giving birth to outside wedlock. And then she's also carrying her life in such a way that she will also be giving birth to another child outside wedlock because of ignorance. And it's ignorant because nobody's talking, because there's a silence of culture in her home, in her family, in her church, and in her school. She's in a place where she's in a culture of silence. So she doesn't know that she has the power to stop that generational curse. Nobody cursed her, just that because the mother did that, she's most likely to also get into it, except she becomes what? Deliberate and intentional. But she can't even be deliberate when she does not know. And she cannot know if she is not taught, if she's not told. All right. So that is the generational repetition. So we run the risk of repeating something until it becomes a generational problem, until someone arises and nips it at the bud. Okay. So now let's talk about practical solutions, because we are all about solutions. We can't just sit down here and talk about the problem of silence and silence culture and ignorance and then leave it at that. We are here to offer solutions, practicable, and of course, when it concerns you, godly solutions. Number one, break the silence as early as possible. So we are proposing that sex education starts as early as possible. When you ask me, when should I start? At what age should I start? I say start immediately, whether your child is 0 or 10. Okay, so of course, we know that sex education begins even before the child is born. When you begin to do those non-verbal things, such as ensuring that the child knows the consequences of touching the things that the music that you hear, the way you dress, when you know that you're expecting children, sex education starts by the things that you do. And of course, as soon as the child is born, you start. And of course, when the child can understand go and come, you're already speaking to them. So start early, use age appropriate language, like I said earlier when I started, once you are trained, you are fine. Okay? Because a lot of parents don't talk because they don't know what they will say that will stimulate negative curiosity in their child. So they are afraid of giving too much information that could make the children look for the wrong information eventually. That should not make you to not talk. Okay? That should not make you to not talk. Just get yourself trained, get yourself educated, right? So that you can use age appropriate language, call body parts what they are, talk about privacy. You're not corrupting your child when you do that. You are protecting your child. You are not corrupting your child. You are protecting your child by breaking the silence early. You don't want, I mean, it's such a beautiful thing to see a child who begins sex education as early. You don't even have come to the point where you're like, okay, don't call this, call this that. From get go, the child is already calling their private parts by their right names. The child doesn't even know that there's something like another name that they call their private parts because they started from the scratch. It's such a beautiful thing. I know because that's what I by experience. Number two, educate yourself. Read books, attend body safety workshops, follow trusted voices. Don't assume you know. Assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. Don't ever assume that you know what to do. Don't ever assume that you know what to say. Learn, read, and most importantly, follow trusted voices. It's not every voice, especially when it comes to sex education, when it comes to conversations about sex. It's not every voice that you follow. It's not something you Google. It's not something you chat GPT. It is something that you have to learn in the right way from the right sources. Okay? So look for the right sources that you will get the right knowledge so you don't deceive yourself or deceive your children. I'm telling you, a lot is out there. A lot of knowledge is out. A lot of, I mean, a lot is out there. So if you're not careful, you're going to take in the wrong information and pass it on to your children. Number three, create a system of openness in your home. Daily ask your child, what made you feel safe today? Or was anything uncomfortable? Normalize talking in your home. Instead of saying, how was your day? How was your day? Instead of saying, how was your day? You said, did anything make you feel unsafe today or uncomfortable? Or what made you feel safe today? Those are body safety questions you can ask your children every day because sometimes something even happens in their day, but other activities overshadows it that they forget to say what they're supposed to say. I'm talking out of experience. So except you open the system up, or except you open it up, they won't remember. They won't remember. Like, except to like, did anything happen today that made you feel uncomfortable? Then they can now think, oh yeah, a classmate did so and so a thing, or a teacher said so and so a thing, and it made me feel uncomfortable, right? Sometimes you come to talk, and then maybe once in a month or thereabout. And then they start remembering that time in my class, this was so, that teacher did that. You say, but why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you report to me? Other activities must have overshadowed it. That's why you must, continually talk and create a system of openness in your home. Number four, respond to warning signs. Okay, warning signs such as the way your child is acting. That's why you must be a very observant parent. And you're observant, you know a child that doesn't normally have nightmares. You know a child that doesn't normally behave this way, but is suddenly behaving this way. You know the child that behaves this particular way, but this particular way is out of the norm. Don't ignore it. Ask questions. pray, seek help, get help. And of course, very importantly, report abuse. That's not betrayal, that's protection. Okay, so if your child um is the hearty type, the one the excited of the child that is always here and there always, and suddenly the child becomes withdrawn. Okay, the child becomes withdrawn. Ask. It must not be. It may not be sexual abuse, but don't wave it off. Okay, it could even be that the child is having symptoms of malaria. It's not something to also wave off. Okay, but what I'm simply saying, when you understand your child and you now see that the child is behaving opposite their normal way, it calls for attention. Okay, it may not be sexual abuse, but whatever it is, still calls for attention. Okay, or your child begins to bedwet suddenly, you know, you know that not that your child is bedwet every now and then, but you know that they've passed that stage. They don't, even if they are 3 years, of course, my children stopped bedwetting at 2. So even if they are 3 years or 4 years, and maybe they, maybe once in a year, that's okay. But then you notice that the child is now bedwetting every time. It's not something to wave off. You need to pay attention. There may be something wrong somewhere. Or your child doesn't suck a finger. Okay, even if it's 2 years old, they suck from birth, from the womb. Your child who has never sucked their thumb since they were born, even though the child is 2 or 3, and the child suddenly begins to suck their thumb, there is a problem. You need to pay attention to it. Then, number 5, involve the community, involve the church. Okay, if you're a church person, okay, involve them. I mean, you should, if you are in church or any community or school where your children are, how do you involve them? By um, suggesting training programs, okay? Suggesting training programs for the teachers, the caregivers, okay? And then encouraging the system, whether it's school or church, to create systems by which they can check in on the workers. Unfortunately, in the church, children are also being abused or have been abused, okay, by people that they are supposed to trust. Church is supposed to be a very safe space for us and for our children. Unfortunately, it's not. Okay, it's not. Like I said, one of the first stories I talked about, she went for a Christian camp and she was taken advantage of. Unfortunately, that's where we find ourselves. Even schools are supposed to be safe, but unfortunately, schools are also places where children are abused sexually, not just by their teachers, but their fellow learners who are coming from homes where they are being abused. So, screen volunteers, screen teachers that are volunteering, especially in children's church, and of course, most importantly, train them. Some children will only receive help when they hear it in church. This culture of silence just runs through. A child will just be growing up. In their home, there is silence and ignorance. In their school, there is silence and ignorance. In their children's church, there is also silence and ignorance. What is the hope of the child? So sometimes I've heard, a lot of things I learned in church because we had a pastor at the time who was too very open about these conversations, doing conferences, just focusing on sex, you know, and that could have been my only hope. Some children is because they are in a school where they took it as a deliberate thing that maybe once a week or once in a month or something, they have sex conversations in the school. And that was how they were delivered from their own ignorance. You understand? So even if you're doing it at home, you can encourage your children's schools and children's churches to also take it up for the sake of those children who are not hearing the right thing. Okay, but of course we know that primarily it's the work of the home. Okay, so that those are the Bible says in Proverbs 31 verse 8, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Okay, so when we create such spaces for the children, they are able to hear the things that they didn't even hear at home. The downside of that is that if you're not deliberate, maybe if it's just done anyhow, of course it's being done. Many teachers don't have your same values. That is why it's important to put them in places where you have shared values. They don't have the same values. So when they talk about this, they talk about it from their and it may be in dissonance with your own value system. But the most important thing is start first and be talking about it. So today, break that silence. And of course, in this month, we are having an opportunity to just talk about mastering sex conversations. We are having an extent, not just a 30 minutes or 45 minutes talk, but I think 3 days or so where we are talking about mastering it. You must be a master in it. Sometimes your children ask you questions and you don't even know where to do, how to answer, where to start. That's where training comes. You don't know, and remember, I don't know is a valid answer. But you don't even know that you can say, I don't know. Because some of us, we think that our children must always see us as Alpha and Omega, Mrs. I know it all, or Mr. I know it all. Your children should know that even though I'm a daddy, even though I'm a mommy, I don't know it all. So let's check it out later. Very beautiful sex education answer. I don't know it now. I don't know it. Can we talk about this later? Let's check out the answers together for older children. You understand? But how will you know? You would rather one thing about this whole silence is that it could even lead you to the place of false falsitude, find things, saying the wrong things. Instead of you to say, I don't know, or can we talk about this later? You now say something that is a lie or something that is a half truth because you don't know that you should say I don't know, and or you say or you don't know that you should say okay we'll talk about it later. Maybe you don't know how to say it. For example, a parent that said the daughter asked her when she was teaching them about purity and virginity, okay, did you marry as a virgin? And because she did not, she just said okay we'll talk about it later. She didn't know what to say. She was afraid that if she says she did not, then it will just render all her lessons invalid. They will now follow her wrong path. But that's not true. But she was a wise mom, says, okay, we are going to continue this conversation later. Then she came to ask, what should I say? And she was properly guided. There is nothing like being skillful. Once you become skillful, you become a confident parent. When you're confident, to one side of our mouth because we don't even we're not confident with what we're saying. We don't really know or understand what we're saying. We are not even sure of our values. Okay, so we are neither here nor there. So we just say something out of the blue, and the following day we say another thing, another different thing altogether. That's why it must be value based. So I'm encouraging everyone here. Make sure you join that class. You will be saving yourself, your generation, breaking the silence, breaking the ignorance, and probably breaking generational misnomers, breaking generational anomalies. Why? Because you rose up, you attended a course, you learned, and you implemented it. So thank you very much for staying with me as I've come to the end of my conversation. Remember, silence hides danger because sin thrives in silence. Number two, ignorance invites destruction because my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And finally, knowledge and boldness save lives. Your voice is your child's shield. Your wisdom is your child's defense. Let's raise children who are not just godly churchgoers, but who are also guarded. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. As usual, we got value, and I believe that anyone here also got value. It's been so insightful. A lot has been shared. Of course, our free classes are also value packed. So imagine how the main course is going to be. So I want to leave you here. Thank you so much, and we honor you so much for your time as well.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank
see
you
you
very much
later.
for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, so I believe we've all learned something, and you can either be your child's guide, or you can, choose to live in regret by leaving that responsibility to someone else to lead your child astray. And I believe that that is not what we want. We must break the silence. We must start early with giving age appropriate conversations, sex conversations. There is age appropriate conversations that we must have with our children. Okay, hello, ma'am. I see you. Yes, thank you so much for such an amazing topic. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you too for joining. You are always here, and I really, really appreciate your time and you being here all the time. So you can share this with other parents as well. And talking about the mastering sex conversations course with your child, it's going to be packed. Okay, when you register for that course, it's now 97 cities only, and we are going to change. The amount is going to change from 11th of July. We are going to increase it to 150 cities, and I believe we all, can take. If it's lower, if you're having it at a lower price, it will be better to buy at that cost at that price than wait till it's up. So I encourage each and every one of us here to register for the course. When you register, you get access to last year's class. You can begin to watch to at least prepare you for the next one that we are going to have. And we're going to have it on 28th of this month. Okay, 28th of this month. So I want you to actually get involved. Start. You are going to get free 4 guides that is going to also help you. Sex conversation is not a one-day thing. It's not a conversation that you have today and then you are done. You are creating the sexual blueprint for your child. And these conversations need to even start earlier, from 0 to 5 years. You are building the child's sexual blueprint. And if you leave it and you tell yourself, oh, it's okay, if the child doesn't know, nothing can happen. If they are ignorant, they can protect themselves. No, if they are ignorant, an ignorant child will always suffer. The children who are molested most of the times are children who are ignorant. A child who is informed, a child who is empowered, knows what to say, knows what to do at every point in time. And as parents, our time on earth, you know, death is inevitable, so we need to do everything. Once we are alive, we are strong. We need to empower our children so that when, even in our absence, or when we are still here, they can, wherever they find themselves, they can protect themselves. So I encourage you, and I'll entreat you to register for this course. You can also share with your family and friends so that they can also register. If those around you know about these things, life becomes easier. If your friends know about these things, if your family knows about these things, you can easily leave your child with them if you have something important to do. But if they don't know what you know, it becomes really tough, because you leaving your child with that particular person, you don't know what can happen. And a lot can happen. There are people who leave their children with relatives, and at the end of the day, things get like so messy. And I believe that is not what we want. We need to start now to educate ourselves as parents. We have no excuses. You can either be your child's guide, or you can live, in regret because you left that responsibility to someone else. And the person led your children astray. I believe that is not what you want as a parent. So yes, join this course. You can find the link right here in on YouTube. The link is below. You can just click on it, and then it will lead you to where you have to buy the course. Or you can also send through our Momo number. You can send us a message, and we will send you all the details about the course. Thank you so much for joining, and I really appreciate your time. See you next week for another insightful, powerful session. Enjoy an amazing day. Bye bye.